So, just a few weeks ago, it was Leon Draisaitl in the Edmonton Oilers organization who had signed a beefy, juicy, tender contract extension, which will see him being the highest paid player in the NHL. For a while, at least, until Connor McDavid gets his deal. But the other guy amongst those three in Edmonton has just gotten himself a contract update, and we're going to be talking about it here in today's video. So, we're familiar that the four-headed monster that the Edmonton Oilers have on their payroll goes as follows. Of course, you've got Connor McDavid. Of course, you've got Leon Draisaitl. You have Darnell Nurse making $9 million, but then you have Evan Bouchard, who at this time is not making 9 or 10 or whatever $million. He's still on his earlier deal. He's only making $3.9 million a year until the end of this upcoming season. Now, that's a big dollar amount. It really is. But when it comes to the way he's going to get extended, hey, he's coming off of a point-per-game campaign in the regular season. He's coming off an over-point-per-game campaign in the playoffs. For some reason, I feel like Bouchard does elevate his game in the postseason, mostly because he gets, all the minutes on the power play. It's not a surprise to see him going out there and scoring the lights out, especially when he's setting up Draisaitl and McDavid all night long. He works very well on that power play line, he's very skilled, he's got a bomb of a shot, and his offensive productivity could very well improve as his career goes on. I mean, 82 points right now, but the guy is 24 years old. What's stopping him from getting a 90-point season? What's stopping him from getting a 95-point season? With that in mind, the Edmonton Oilers and Bouchard's camp have started contract talks, according to certain sources. Firstly, let's go over to what Stan Bowman said himself about the Evan Bouchard contract negotiations. He says there's nothing new to report on that front, but that Evan Bouchard is a big part of this team, and he also believes Bouchard's best years are ahead of him. Pretty cookie-cutter vanilla answer right there, not getting a little too extreme there, it's normal stuff, but let's go over to the Too Much Hockey Podcast Twitter account. They've been posting a lot of Oilers updates over the past few months here, and a lot of these things actually do come true, so I think their sources are definitely starting to verify themselves as the months go along. We're hearing that the Oilers and Evan Bouchard's camp have started contract talks. The comparable for these negotiations is the Rasmus Dahlin deal, from what we are hearing. Bouchard is looking for around $11 million on an AAV. Now, Rasmus Dahlin is a guy who just signed with the Buffalo Sabres earlier last year, and he had himself an $11 million contract extension, AAV-wise, till 2032. That guy is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Honestly, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. However, there is a conversation that you can have as to whether or not Rasmus Dahlin is a projectable kind of player type to Evan Bouchard. I say that because Rasmus Dahlin is coming off of a 59-point campaign in 81 games played. He had 73 points in 78 games in the season preceding the contract extension, so he had this 73-point year, then he signed the extension, and then he had a 59-point season, so it declined. Everybody on Buffalo declined, though, so I'm not going to go out there and harp too much on Rasmus Dahlin. He still is one of the top 6, top 7 defensemen in the NHL. You could twist my arm and maybe say top 5. Evan Bouchard, I'd say, is a lot more offensively refined than Rasmus Dahlin is, but Dahlin is just more capable everywhere else. His mobility, I think, is stronger than Bouchard's. His defensive responsibility, I think, is better than Bouchard's. His breakout passing, too, I think, is a tad better than Bouchard's, though Bouchard does have the edge in shooting capability and offensive zone territorial control. However, $11 million is kind of like the benchmark, I'd say, for the top of the team, absolute, no doubt about it, number 1 caliber defenseman. You have some guys in the NHL that are, of course, they're number 1s, but not really a prime number 1. If you ranked the number 1 defenseman in the NHL, I would say that Jake Sanderson and Owen Power, Moritz Seider, these guys are maybe not at the top of the top, but they're still near the top, and they're making around $8 million a year each. The only outlier in this conversation is Quinn Hughes, one of only 3 guys to outscore Evan Bouchard on defense this most previous year. Quinn Hughes is only making $7.8 million a year, and that contract is looking like an absolute steal to the highest magnitude. It will continue to be a steal until it expires in 2026-2027. Quinn Hughes is phenomenal, and he scored 90-something points this previous season for a reason. He's the only guy, I'd think, that really stands out in the conversation amongst defenseman contracts as being a huge steal. And of course, Bouchard's not going to sign at 7.85. Some of the replies on this comment by Too Much Hockey on Twitter go out there and say similar things. That's amazing news that the contract extension talks have started. It likely means that Bouchard comes out at around $10 million. 11, screw that, trade him for someone who can play defense. Anyone in his role could put up 60 to 70 points. Another comment says, dropping clef bombs has a very pessimistic point of view on that. Does Bouchard deserve $11 million? I don't really know. Another comment says Quinn Hughes is more comparable at $7.85 million. Rasmus Dahlin is quite ahead on the defensive side of Evan Bouchard. And there are some Oilers fans that are a lot smarter than that. Hughes will get way more than his current contract when he resigns. You cannot use him as a comparison. The Hughes deal is a bargain. If he signs today, I think he gets 12. So you can't go out there and use Quinn Hughes as the contract dollar amount comparable. With the cap going up, though, it does make sense for Bouchard's ask to be in that 11-something million dollar range, because if you negotiate, okay, 11 million, you work it down, Oilers offer maybe 8, Bouchard comes back with maybe a 10.5, and then Edmonton rebuttals with 9, and then eventually you settle on like a $10.02 million contract. Like, it's gonna happen like that. And quite frankly, if you look at NHL defensemen around the league who are making $10+ million a year, there's literally only 3. Erik Karlsson, Drew Doughty, Rasmus Dahlin. That's it. Every other defenseman in the league is under $10 million a year. So, hey, Evan Bouchard approaching that territory, becoming only the 4th defenseman in the NHL to reach an 8-digit AAV. I guess you could say he's better than Drew Doughty at this stage of Drew Doughty's career. I also guess you can say that his offense outweighs what Rasmus Dahlin is good at on defense, so maybe there's a comparable conversation to have there. But some of the other guys here, I mean, Adam Fox, 9.5, Zach Werenski, 9.5, McAvoy just got 9.5. Then you have some other bums, too, that are a little bit overpaid, like Seth Jones making 9.5. There are players here that I think definitely are undervalued. Not too many guys on here, I'd say, are priced fairly, with the exception of Erik Karlsson making 11.5, which is not his fault, but he did score 100 points in a year, so I think he deserves the respect. Evan Bouchard, if he wants to be a part of that four-headed monster in Edmonton, dollar-wise, maybe taking a team-friendly deal would see him making something like 9.5 or 9.25, similar to the Nurse deal. He could definitely get more, obviously, if his camp is starting out with 11 million as the ask, but negotiations are negotiations, right? If it's 11 million the ask, who knows what the final dollar amount is going to be as the Oilers work towards some sort of a negotiation. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Edmonton Oilers and Evan Bouchard. This is your contract update as to how these extension talks seem to be going. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.